Yo, 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 yo. What is going on, brothers? It is another episode of Learning Manhood. And I have a question for you. Do you have a code that you live by, a set of values that you aspire to, or maybe a list of fundamental non negotiables? Today, I'm going to cover man code as described and prescribed by the word of God. Welcome to another episode of Learning Manhood, the podcast where we explore faith, leadership, personal growth, and overcoming life's challenges. And as always, I try to make sure that we're blending theology and therapy to get to the mental health needs that we have. I'm your host, Eddie. Today, we're going to be diving into one of the, I think, fundamental aspects of biblical manhood, and it is the fruit of the Spirit as described in Galatians 5:22-23. The verses highlighted in this specifically are one of the things that I find is important as men of God to really be honed in on, because the fruit we produce, as described by Paul in the letter of Galatians, are what the people around us consume. And what the people around us consume is based entirely on the person that we are. I want to start by reading this scripture and really diving into a little bit of the context of it. So the verse is Galatians 5:22-23, and the NIV says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law." Now, Paul, the Apostle Paul, is writing this letter to the church of Galatians. And it is focused on a specific question that I think is very relevant to us today. Paul wanted to address the relationship between the Jewish Christian and the Gentile Christian, specifically in the church. Now, for those of you that don't know a little bit of background before we get into why this is a relevant conversation, the Jewish Christian were the original church, right? They were all Jews that had not quote unquote converted, but they became Christian because they did not convert. They were still Jewish. They became Christians. And then as the message spreads, we have people that were not Jewish by birth becoming Christians as well. And so now that there's a little bit of consternation between these two groups, because those that grew up Jewish and are Christian are trying to keep with certain traditions and certain habits and certain expectations that are levied upon them as Jewish people. And then the Gentiles, the non-Jewish people, are not adhering to these same types of rules, regulations, but they are still being Christians. And so that's causing friction in the church right now. And so Paul is really trying to highlight here that friction is not relevant. One, and two, you are not holier than anyone else because you are accomplishing a certain amount of works. It is about the fruits of the Spirit. That is about the walk that you're doing. Now, why do I think this is a relevant conversation? We're going to extrapolate what Paul is describing about how to operate from a space of spiritual richness and not physical work. And I want to talk to the point that we as men need to learn how to support and address each other. Now, I know in this particular context, he's talking about the Jewish Christians and the Gentile Christians, but I want to talk about these things in the context of man to man. Man to man. We're all, at this point, most of us are Gentile Christians. So man to man, husbands and fathers, it's important not to focus on what we accomplish physically, but spiritually. These fruits we're going to discuss are a guideline and a roadmap to the man that we want to be. I looked at these and was like, wow, like this truly embodies the man that I would love to be, but I've got to get there first by really honing into how I need to perform these fruits. Paul emphasized that by living in the fruit, living by the Spirit produces these qualities which are evident of a life transformed by Christ. As men striving to follow Jesus, these attributes should be evident in our lives and our guide to interaction with others. Now, that is a good concept right there that I've been trying to use as a metric, because you meet a lot of people that claim that they're Christian. They say that because they grew up Christian. They grew up in a Christian household. They grew up, having to go to church with their mom every Sunday and things of that nature, but they don't necessarily live that lifestyle. And so now I've been trying to use these fruits of the Spirit as a metric to see if they are truly trying to live that lifestyle of showing the world that they are a being transformed by Christ. And I'm telling you, it's not easy. It's not easy. Disclaimer right now, if you're thinking, oh, this is a great episode, let me take some notes and then I'm just going to be great and pass the test at all times. It's not that easy. And we're going to talk about it. So we're going to break down the fruits of the Spirit. We're going to talk about each one, and we're going to talk about practical examples of how they need to be enacted, especially when it comes to not only dealing with each other man to man, but dealing with your family. So love is the first fruit of the Spirit. And in 1 Corinthians 16 and 14, it says, do everything in love. So like as men, we are called to love unconditionally. This means loving our families, our friends, even the strangers with the same selfless love that Christ has for us. Love should be the foundation for all of our actions. Love should be the foundation for all of our actions. Love should be the foundation for all of our actions. And that is very hard to do. Very, very hard to do. We've talked about servant leadership before in our homes, that we need to be ready to serve, show our family what it looks like to grow together through giving. The more we serve our family, the more they are going to learn to serve each other and go out into the world to serve those around them. But what about the other people in our lives? Love. How do you move with love if you have hate in your heart? Now, I say this specifically because a lot of us, we came up in this generation of, oh, yes, now is the time to hold our parents accountable for all the things that we had to go through. Just because they're my parents doesn't mean I need to talk to them and all that stuff like that. Okay, fine. You've got your trauma. You need to deal with that. I'm going to go ahead and point that out. You need to deal with that trauma that you're dealing with, these parental wounds. However, you still have to move with love. You cannot have that hate in your heart. And a lot of the times, the most hate I think that I see generated in people's hearts comes from trauma experiences they have not been able to let go yet. So you can't love with hate in your heart, and people will be people. The enemy will try to throw you off balance with people, the way people behave. But we have to deal with love with everyone. Do business in love. Sit in traffic in love. Grocery shop in love. Deal with Janice from accounting in love. You have to deal with all things from a space of love. And that's a very difficult thing to do because your flesh is the first one to be like, I don't want to do love. I want to do anger. This is something that I've had to really work on, especially when it comes to raising these children. I find myself getting more and more frustrated when I feel like I've explained myself too many times, and have to remember these are children. They don't understand these concepts. Yes, you have explained it, but they are primal beings. They are going to do the first thing that comes to mind. And so we have to move with love. The next one is one that I really think that as men, we do not do enough of, and that's joy. Nehemiah 8 and 10, the joy of the Lord is your strength. I don't know how many people have seen it on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, but there was this few months back, there's this whole thing about black men frolicking, right? It was this whole thing, and everybody was like, it blew up. Everybody was all excited just to watch black men frolic in fields, and was like, oh, y'all ain't tell me we was out here frolicking. This is tight. Like, they was all excited. And so everybody, it turned into this whole thing. But it made me ask why. Why is it so exciting to see black men specifically frolicking? And that's because people don't see us enjoy ourselves. We don't get an opportunity to display joy. We are often too busy trying to be hard. And that is a toxic way to raise a family, a toxic way to be a man. We have to find the joy in our lives. And joy isn't dependent on our circumstances, but is rooted in our relationship with God. As men, finding joy in the Lord gives us strength and resilience to face the life's challenges. We need to be able to experience joy in its totality. Like, there are times, and this is another thing that I struggle with, there are times where my kids are doing ridiculous things, just ridiculous, but they're just trying to have fun. They're just being kids doing weird stuff. And sometimes I got to remind myself to hop in there and just be weird with the kids. I think this whole dance you got from this whatever YouTube thing you were watching is ridiculous, but guess what? We're going to do it together, because it is important for my kids to see me having fun and being joyful, not just with them, but with their mother, just hanging out with my friends. Like, they have to see us having fun. and enjoying laughing with our kids, being goofy, having fun. Joy in the Lord is your strength, and it will build your family. Peace. Now, Philippians 4:7 says, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard our hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." A peaceful heart is one that trusts in God's sovereignty. As leaders in our homes and communities, it is crucial to cultivate peace, offering calm and stability around us. Peace is a hard one, especially when the world is trying to do everything it possibly can to destroy that peace. But when it comes to this fruit of the Spirit, I also think about what it is that I'm doing specifically to cultivate peace in my house and in my life. What am I doing to add peace to those around me? And it bleeds into that kind of that servant leadership, whether it's, blocking the kids from bothering their mother after she's had a long day and, she doesn't need to be dealing with whatever things they're arguing about just so she can find space to relax, reset, and be ready to come out and be mom, or if it's heading off the argument that my kids are about to have, just so they could be, so it doesn't escalate into this giant thing, and then they can continue to have peace and have fun in the household. But that requires me to pay attention and understand my family and be prepared to intervene. But with that, there is my own peace I need to protect that needs to be guarded. A tired and frustrated dad is simply like one dumb question away from, getting yelled at, right? I have to work on that. And I pray that y'all will pray for me because I'm tired oftentimes, right? But I think I'm tired oftentimes because God is working on me about this peace thing. Maybe that's just a revelation that just happened to me just now, live on camera. Wow. Maybe God's working on me with this peace, and that's why I'm always so tired. But I have to develop that peace within myself in this season of gratitude, right? I've been very, very having so much to be thankful for, and I am grateful for the world that I live in at home, and it helps me start to begin to deal with the annoying things, but I need to get better at that peace. So, gentlemen, it is important to not only cultivate the peace for your home, you need to be the harbinger of peace in your house. It shouldn't be dad walks in and everybody's too scared to say anything, because that's the generation we grew up in. We're done being mad dad, right? Dad comes and brings peace this generation. This is what we're doing now. Dad brings peace. That's the new hotness. Dad brings peace, not the belt. Sometimes the belt is required. I'm just going to let that sit there. The next one is forbearance, which is patience. I'm going to have to tell on myself hard on this one. James 1:9. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Patience is a critical trait for handling conflicts and challenges. It reflects on our trust in God's timing and our willingness to endure trials with grace. And I will admit, I will tell anyone straight up, I am not a patient man. I'm not. I have 3 boys, and while I love them dearly, they go above and beyond sometimes to tap dance on my nerves. Like it's an Olympic sport that they're getting paid MVP, Super Bowl championship money for, right? They have turned getting on dad's nerves into a sport that should be on ESPN 8 to Ocho, right? Like they go hard on trying to get on my nerves, but it is again, as I'm talking through it, it's just like God is just pricking me, just like, because I need you to learn patience, because I need you to learn. And the thing that roots me in this problem set, God keeps chastising me, and God keeps chastising me on this particular fruit, because God called us to love our families, love our wives like He loves the church, and that involves being patient. God is so patient with us as men. We are out here trying, and He is just rolling with us. And in that same method, I need to work on being patient with my family, because I've seen how my impatience and my reactions to anger that followed shut off the people in my household. There are times where, I might raise my voice or get angry, and I've watched, my kids and my children, and my wife just be like, you know what, we are done talking then. Okay, dad's done got loud, things done got weird. So patience is something that I need to work on. And it's something that we all need to work on. It is the fruit of the Spirit. Kindness is the next one. Ephesians 4:32. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as forgave you. Kindness in our words and actions reflect God's love to others. It is important about treating others with respect and compassion, mirroring Jesus' example. Now, you may not believe this, but I'm an introvert and I need to recharge my battery after just talking into a camera for a little bit of time. It makes me want to talk to people less. So when my social battery is low, I fall into the trap of my intrusive thoughts winning and not being kind. I think we need to focus on this fruit, honestly, for how we treat each other as men, right? We are so hard on ourselves and so hard on others. Be kind to your brother because you know for a fact, like, I've been trying to do this in my life, like ever since I wrote this down and was really studying these and I was like trying to prepare for this. I've been really trying to be kind to other men because I know for a fact they're going through something. We're all going through something. So why not give a brother a break? So this fruit of the Spirit is something that I've been working on very, very very, very diligently, because every man I know is, working through 12 different crises at once, just like I am, and Paul was talking about the church trying to get along. Why are we not doing a better job of trying to uplift each other as men? Be kind to each other, be patient with each other, bring each other peace. Like sometimes we just need to walk up and be like, bro, it's all good. What do you need help with? How can I alleviate some stress in your life? So that is one that I think we really need to not only be kind to ourselves, but be kind to others. The next one is goodness. In Micah 6:8, it says, he has shown you, O mortal, what is good and what does the Lord require of you, to act justly and to love mercy and walk humbly with God. Goodness involves moral integrity and its commitment to do what is right. As men, our actions should reflect God's righteousness and justice. Goodness is one I want to talk about specifically for business. I love doing business. I love starting businesses. I love interacting in a business mind state, right? And I know there's a lot of men that listen to, well, the few of us that are here, think this way as well. But how often do we use business as an excuse to not be good, right? We use business as an excuse to, hey, I am just trying to play the game versus being good, right? I want to talk business because generally as men, we operate in a space that if things are going to be directly in the interest of our families, we are doing good for the house. Making this profit is good for the house, so it's good. But that does not mean it's good for my customer, not good for my consumer. And so I think this one specifically has me focused more on doing good business and doing good to the people around me. Now, I fall victim to this because I get in this hustle, I get in this grind, and I'm just like, I'm not trying to screw people over per se in the businesses that I've had in the past, but I have intentionally tried to increase my profit margin and maybe overinflate the value of the product I was selling at the time. But that's not the space that I live in now. However, it is something that I think is worth discussing. I recently saw an interview with this guy that owns Arizona Sweet Tea, and they was like, why is it still 99 cents printed on the can? And he was like, because we making money. What do we need to upsell it for? Like, we making money. It's 99 cents. Like, and that really, like, the lot of the things I was reading in the comments, people were just like, that is amazing. I don't even buy Arizona Sweet Tea like that, but now I want to because this guy's trying not to be greedy. Goodness, right there. That one interview probably boosted their sales, probably just this quarter, but still, moving forward, the fruits of the Spirit, right? Faithfulness. 1 Corinthians 4:2, now it is required that those who have been giving a trust must prove faithful. Faithfulness is about being reliable and trustworthy. In our relationships, at work, and in our spiritual life, consistency and loyalty are key. I've learned very, very, very early on with kids that the moment I promised to do something, I had to do it or their whole little worlds will fracture. Unfortunately, the side effects to this is that for a long time they would ask me for things and I wouldn't commit to because it was a possibility I was going to say no. Like if they say, "Hey, tomorrow can we go to the park?" I don't know how I'm going to feel tomorrow. I might be tired tomorrow. If I say yes right now and then tomorrow I don't feel like it, like now that made me into a liar, or I've got to take you to the park even when I don't feel like it. So I started saying, "Oh, we shall see." But that in itself is ambiguous. So I'm trying to get better at giving my kids a complete explanation. Like, no, I'm not going to take you to the park today because it's hot and dad is too tired to run around in the field with you. However, if dad is feeling better tomorrow, then we can take you. But with that, we have to do the same thing. Like we have to be cautious about overextending ourselves. With people, it's important to say no to things just as it is important to say yes. I respect it when I ask someone to be like, "Hey, can you do this thing for me or with me?" And they say, "No, I don't have the bandwidth for that." Like, you know what? Bet. Because now I know when you say yes, you mean yes. Because when you said no, you meant no, right? Instead of saying yes and then not being able to fulfill that obligation. The next one is gentleness. But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. This is 1 Peter 3:15, by the way. But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks you the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect. Gentleness isn't weakness, but controlled strength. And I think that is the thing I need to highlight the most here. As men, we hear gentleness and we think, "Oh, you got to be all soft with people." No, gentleness isn't a weakness. It is controlled strength. It is controlled strength. When you pick up a baby, you are gentle. Can you yeet that baby? Absolutely. But you are being controlled in your strength. You're not going to yeet the baby. You're going to be cautious with the baby. You're going to treat the baby as if it's fragile. That is how we treat others. Gentleness. Gentleness. It's about responding to others with humility and respect, even in difficult situations. I grew up in a family of conflict avoiders. We just didn't talk about things, right? We was like, "Oh, this thing made people feel a way, so we're just going to ignore it and everybody's going to fester until we get to a holiday party and then everything comes out." I married into a family of aggressive conflict resolution. It's like, "Oh no, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about it right now. And we're going to be very, very, very loud about it until everybody gets their feelings out." And I had to learn that the key to conflict resolution, especially like that it needs to be addressed somewhere in the middle, right? You need to be able to talk about it, like for sure, but you need to be very calm about it, right? And so that way you can protect your peace and protect the peace of those around you. It's important when you're not only dealing with your family, but again with each other as men. Dealing with each other with gentleness and respect is not only the way to receive respect, but it's also a way to be heard. So as a man, we can grow. How many times do we feel as men that we don't get heard? Why are we not spending time listening to each other? We got to treat each other with gentleness. The last one here is self-control. 2 Timothy 1:7. For the Spirit of God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. Self-control is vital for resisting temptations and making wise decisions. It reflects our commitment to living a disciplined life in obedience to God. Self-control is a big one for me. As someone that has struggled with addiction my entire life, all these fruits of the Spirit for me lead back to self-control and discipline. I know the things that I need to do. You now know the things that you need to do. Thanks for going for this whole list of the fruits of the Spirit. It is on us to exhibit self-control to be able to perform these things, right? I have struggled with all these fruits, but when it comes down to it, like none of the fruits of the spirits are anything without self-control. You can't do anything. It's the foundation of our growth is self-control. And we really need to take control over our habits, our hangups, our addictions, the things that slow us down, the attitudes and the mistakes that we make. It is time to truly look at ourselves to be able to embody what walking in the Spirit looks like. Now, some practical applications. I know I generally try to leave you with something that you can action on today. And most of the time, it is the same thing. I'm finding that as I'm going through and I'm like, okay, what are practical steps? It's these same three things that I keep talking about. Today, I think one of them is different, but daily prayer and scripture reading, it is very, very, very important to get in your word. It's very, very important to get in your word. And I know that the Bible can sometimes seem daunting, but Start with a simple Google search. Find a verse that fits the problem that you're dealing with. What does the Bible say about stress? What does the Bible say about patience? What does the Bible say about marriage? Like, what does the Bible say about insert your thing here and start there? It does not have to be as daunting as, starting a whole, like, I'm going to pick this book. I don't know if this is the right book to start at. Start there. Take all the pressure off you and just use the tools that you have at hand to get a foundation of reading and understanding and learning and translating early. The next thing I want to talk about is the next practical step is always an accountability partner. It is important to have people, friends, family, someone that you can trust that's going to hold you accountable to not only yourself, but to what God has for you. The last thing we talked about, daily prayer, which is our theology, scripture reading, accountability partners, and then the last thing, reflection and self-examination. So this is how we talk about blending therapy and theology, right? It's important to sit down and really look at yourself, really look at who you are as a man and look at the things that you have done and things that you are becoming, and really understand the things that you need to be praying for, the things you need to get therapy for. And those are the ways that you really start to learn how to embody the fruits of the Spirit. Now, the one last thing I want to leave you with is that the fruits of the Spirit isn't about perfection, it's about progress. As we strive to embody these qualities, we reflect Christ's character to those around us, becoming the men that God called us to be. Now, if this episode blessed you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Hear this message. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're, listening to the podcast for the first time, you're finding us on YouTube for the first time, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Like, this is a conversation here, right? I want to provide you the kind of content that makes the most sense to you, that is going to provide you with a little bit of uplifting in your spirit, and continue to grow together in our faith and in manhood. My name is Eddie. God bless. And I am very much enjoying spending time with you and being a fellow student on this journey of manhood. God bless you all, and we will check you on the next episode.